Alright, so today I'm going to be breaking down this IMAN GADZHI style edit right here. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think it looks really clean, and he does a lot of these style animations. His editors are really good at what they do. They're not super complicated, like I said, but they are really clean, and they get the point of the video across really well, in my opinion. If you're a beginner, I know it might look a little overwhelming to see an animation like this, especially with how everything moves apart. I'm going to make sure that every single step of the way you know what I'm doing and you know why I'm doing it. All right, with that being said, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing you're going to do when you open After Effects here is you are going to set this to 30 frames a second. Here, 1920 by 1080. Your standard 16 by 9. You can do 4K if you want. I just like to keep it 16 by 9 because I upload everything in 1080p. So yeah. Alright, so now that we have our composition open, you guys don't need to do this, but I am going to add in Iman's let me fit this real quick. I'm gonna add in Iman's video here so that we can follow along. As you can see here, we have it, and I'll just be putting it on focus mode here and there, just so that we can see the timing of everything as we go. But for now, we are going to put it on this. The first thing you see here is this red and blue gradient here going horizontally. This is very simple, very easy. You also see these kind of scribbles in the background here. I'm assuming that's kind of just maybe an overlay or something that he turned the opacity down on, tinted maybe, I don't know, a few other things. We can easily get this look. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is make a new shape layer. So your fill, I'm going to click here on fill. Don't click on this, that changes the color. You're going to click on fill here, and then you're going to change it to a linear gradient. Don't worry about the color for now, and we're just going to put it like this. Alright, and after you have the shape layer, we are going to go back to this video real quick, and we see it goes from blue to this kind of dark red. So we're going to turn this off real quick. We're going to go back to fill. Alright, so we are going to turn it to a dark blue and a dark red. And that is what we are going to have to start with. Now that does not look anything like what we just saw. So we are going to use these little tools right here, and we're going to stretch out the gradient so that it looks more something like this, which isn't exactly what he has, but I think it is pretty close. Alright, so the next part of our animation is going to be this dollar bill that he has, the main part of the animation. And I found the exact one that he used, or that his editor used. So we have it here. We don't need to do too much to it. We could add a linear color key here just to get rid of all that in the background. You don't need to do that because we're going to be masking it. Okay, so now that we have our bill, we are going to duplicate it. And the reason we are duplicating it is so we can see where we are masking. Because as you see here, we're going to grab our tool here. We're going to grab our mask tool, and we're going to mask it just like this. And if I did not have, if we didn't duplicate this underneath layer, you wouldn't be able to see the rest of it, because this is a add mask. So this entire part right here you wouldn't be able to see, and you wouldn't be able to see if you were distributing your mask correctly into like 3 equal parts. So I'd say that looks about good for our first mask. We are going to do another one about here. that, and then our final one just like this. And we are going to line all of this up, which is probably the most annoying part here. And you can see here, after all that, it looks pretty good. Up here, I mean, there might be one pixel that is not perfect, but for the most part, that looks pretty good. So here, we're going to duplicate our layer 2 more times, and on each layer, we're going to open up the masks. And so you see here, we want this first layer to just be the mask one. So we're going to delete the first one, or sorry, the second one and the third one. And then we are going to delete the first one and the third one. And then here we're going to delete the first and the second one. So here we can just rename these. Third, rename this one second, and then rename this one first. There we go. Okay, so let's bring up Iman's video again, and about here it starts to break off right about there. So the first thing we're gonna do is kind of just keyframe this position here, so this is where it starts, and we don't want our second one to move, because as you see here, it stays in the middle of the third one. And so we are just going to move these two. And don't worry about the scale or anything yet. We're going to pre-compose all of this so that everything is rotating at the same time. And let's see about where it stops here. I'd say they stop breaking apart about here. So we're going to move this one to about here. We're going to move this one to about here. So we're going to select our keyframes here now and do a little bit of graphing. And so we are going to press F9. If you don't have a computer with F9 on it, you can go down here. You can right click on them, go down to keyframe assistant and click easy ease, and that'll do the same thing. So with your keyframe selected, you're going to go into graph, and you're going to highlight this little end piece here. So that's the only part that's moving. And then we're going to just drag this basically all the way forward. And that's basically all we want. And so our next step here, we can actually pre-compose all of these. And the why is because we see how it rotates. This bill, kind of goes from standing straight up to a little bit of an angle. Instead of doing every single section by itself, I'm going to pre-compose this so that we can just do all of them at once. Okay. So about the same time that the bill breaks apart here, it is also rotating. So we can see that here in our pre-comp that our keyframe starts here. So we're going to want to keep our tracker right here. And we're actually just going to go into the pre-comp right here. We're going to click R for rotation. And you can also, we're going to want to create a new camera. And here we're going to also add a null object. And we're going to make that 3D. Okay, and so we're going to parent, after you do that, we're going to parent our camera to the null. And the reason we do that is because if you're moving a camera in 3D, sometimes it can mess with the orientation, which means you start tilting the camera up, down, left, and right. You don't want to do that. All right, so after your camera and your null are linked, the next thing you might notice is if we go into two views here, you can see that if we rotate our bill, it gets cut off. And the reason that is happening is because you can see here our background here is kind of in the middle of it. So we want to move our background back a little bit, center it up. You might need to scale it so it is a little bit bigger now that you moved it back, and maybe even just a little bit more so we have some room to work with here. And so yeah, these are the keyframes I ended up with for the rotation and the position. I think this looks a lot smoother when I did it like this. So here are also the keyframes and the graph that I did for the dollar bill splitting apart. So we can exit out of this pre-comp, and yeah, so we have our basics for the animation done here. So the next thing is we're going to go back into our pre-comp here, and we are going to want to add the lines. So here we can add a new shape layer, and we're going to go to our pen tool and add this. Obviously no fill, and just go ahead and go to the end of your animation here and make a line there, and make another line about here. It doesn't need to be perfect. Maybe turn up the stroke a little bit on these. They are a little bit thicker, and you're gonna have something like this. So if we go back to our main composition here, you can see we go here, the lines are not where we want them to be. So to change that, we are going to go into each of these, and we're going to go to add a trim paths. So let's go back here to IMANs real quick, and we see that this left one goes from the top to the bottom, and the right one goes from the bottom to the top when it draws in, as you can see here. So to do that, add a trim paths, and so this first one goes, sorry, that is the second one there. Okay, so we will, I think we can start it about here, because we don't want anything to overlap. So I say we start about at this frame with our trim path, and our start is going to be at 100. I know that might be kind of confusing, but just trust me here. So at the end, we're going to go back down to 0, and we're going to F9 these and do this. So what you have here, we go back to our animation, is something that looks like that, which is pretty close to what IMAN has here, I would say. And now you want to go back into the first shape layer, go to add, and add a trim paths to this one now. So first, the end should be at 0. Now we're not doing the start this time, we're trim pathing the end. So do the end one this time, and then put it up to 100. Same thing with these. Just go ahead and do the graph real quick, and this is what we end up with so far. And also, as you can see in his, there are lines, or dashes rather, and so we're going to go into shape, and then we're going to go to stroke, and then we're going to add dashes here. I would definitely bring it up to maybe like 40. Looks about right. Go ahead and do the same thing for the other one. Shape, stroke, dash, and bring that one up to 40 as well. And what we have is something pretty close. We see it starting to come to life here. But the next thing that we want to do is, I would say, add our numbers here. So to do this, to do the numbers here, we're going to go to new. We're just going to right click here, go to new, text, and you're going to just type 1. I am using Montserrat font. Make sure your fill is active and your stroke is off here. We can put that into 3D, and let's just fix it real quick. So there you go. So there's your 1. Don't worry about the other ones for now. Whoops. Okay, so there's your 1. And it's going to look something like that for now, but we're going to duplicate our 1, and it is going to go slightly behind the other one, and it is just going to we're going to make it a gray kind of here, so it gives it kind of a shadow effect. Yeah, just something like that. See, Iman's is really good. We'll just make sure it's aligned decently well. Yeah, that looks about good. So there's your 1. And so next we can actually just select both of these and duplicate them, drag them up to the top, and make them 2s now. Yeah, okay, so we want the second 2 to be about here, and then we're going to duplicate these one more time, and we're going to make our 3s. Okay, and so we can select both of our layers, and we can bring them to about here. This one behind it, you're going to move it again slightly over to something like this. And so yeah, you have your 1, 2s, and 3s about like that. So next, what I'm gonna do is pre-comp all of these together. So these are going to be our 1. These are going to be our 2s, and these are going to be our 3s. Okay, and put them all back in 3D. And what we're going to do here is do the position of them. And so when Iman starts, it is about here that his 1 flies in. So we're going to go back to ours, and we're going to take all of these, keyframe their position, and go up here. And so now we can just select this first one, and let's get the timing right again here. So yeah, something like this might do. Let's check. So now we can just really start adding effects to this, which is what's really going to make it come to life. You do see that the lines are still moving. So let's actually go into our pre-comp here, and I will show you guys how to do that really fast. The shape layer 1, you're just going to go to offset. So when these get drawn in at about here, just click the offset timer and go to the very end. Okay, so what I did here is I went to dashes and I keyframed offset right to the very beginning of where the line is getting drawn, and then I went all the way to the end, keyframed it again, and I did -300 because we want it moving down the way that the line was drawn in. So that was the first one, and we can go into our second layer here, keyframe the offset again as well, and go all the way to the end and do 300 instead of negative this time, and we are looking something like this here. We're actually going to go back into our pre-comp again. Okay, so with this adjustment layer, we are going to want to add a turbulent displace. It's gonna look kind of crazy at first, but it will look good. So the evolution is what you're going to want to keyframe. You can copy the amount and the size. It doesn't really matter. Just get something that looks kind of like a dollar bill. So that's a little too much. So yeah, something like that. So now you see that you have that wiggle effect on the bill. We can add some camera movement here. Next, so you're gonna want to keyframe the position of your null until the very end here. Just, we don't want it moved too much. So just something like this. Easy ease them. Come back here. Do something like this, maybe. Just so that it is moving forward the entire time. But yeah, something like that. Okay, so I did almost forget. They kind of all turn dark here. So to do that, we're going to go into our pre-comp and we're going to select all of these. So I'm going to keyframe the opacity for this. Just something like this, maybe darken it just a tiny bit. You can go ahead and easy ease that. You don't need to do anything else to it. So far you should have something like this. I think that looks pretty good. So I have a film dust overlay that I'm going to put on this. We're going to add screen. Next, we're going to add an adjustment layer. And we're going to add a posterized time to this. And we want it maybe around 16. Yeah, that looks about good. So something like 16 there. That looks good. And then I'm also going to add a vignette to this. Just to darken the corners of it. You don't need to if you don't like to, but I always do. I think it looks really good with a vignette on it. Okay, so I found some scribbles. They are not exactly like Iman's, but we can put this in 3D here. Bring it back all the way about here. Scale it so it's big enough. Add a linear color key to it, and that will get rid of the white here. You can turn down the opacity of it, and we are going to add a tint as well, just so that everything is clear and white. And you can basically do something like this. Now it's not exactly like Iman's, but I think it's good enough. So yeah, that's kind of what we have here. I think this is pretty close to Iman's. They're really simple animations. They're not really too hard, but if you can get this style down, you can do a lot with it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I know this animation wasn't too crazy or anything. It was pretty simple. If you know After Effects at all, you should have been able to get through this, I would think. If not, that's okay. If you're a beginner, then hopefully you learned something, even if you didn't get all the way through it. If you're intermediate or you're a professional or something, like, you should have eased through this. And if you guys want me to do anything in the future, any more of these Iman animations, most of them are pretty simple. I love doing them. I think they look good. I think they look really clean and professional. It's definitely the style that I like to do. And hopefully it was a useful tutorial for you guys and you feel like I didn't skip around too much. It was my first video, so bear with me if I did skip around a little much or leave some things out. I'd be happy to help anyone in the comment section with any of your problems that you have. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed, just make sure to like, subscribe, comment, let me know. If you had any problems, if you thought this was easy, thought it was hard, have any questions. And yeah, I just thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.